Hi everyone, welcome to another TouchDesigner tutorial. Today I want to show you how we can make this effect. I posted this visual on my Instagram maybe a week ago, and some people showed interest of me making a tutorial about it. So I will show you how we can this visual. You can use an image or videos with this. Essentially, the thinking behind is that we take the image or the video and we transform it into points using pops. And then I use a noise to make like the particle moving, and then some transform to make the rotation. And what makes the 3D effect is the grid. I will show you with some videos. So I have this running guy here that gives us a pretty cool effect. And I have this snowflake. Like always, I will have this project file on my Patreon for those who don't want to follow along. So let's begin. Okay, so let's start with the blank new project. Also, I'm sorry, I think I have some issue with my mic, so maybe it's gonna cut, but I will try to do my best. The first thing we're gonna need is the image, so we can bring that up. After that, we're gonna connect it to a fit. Why we use fit in this case is because every pixel of this image will become a point, and if we middle click, you can see that the size, sorry, this one, you can see that the original size is 1024 by 2024. So it's a lot of pixels. So we want to reduce the number of pixels because, I mean, I'm not sure if you have a good GPU, but my GPU will probably crash in the fit. You just go in the comment, and the resolution, you just reduce the resolution, so you can put the lowest resolution, or you can change it manually. Yeah, like you could put 200 by 200 if it's too high for you. And in the fit, I also scale it down a bit. Okay, after that we're gonna bring an edge and a threshold. And the goal of this is that we want to have some definition around the shape, because we could directly use this image if you want, but each pixel is gonna be a point, and then in the end it's gonna be like too much particle and it's not gonna be as defined, and you can't really notice the head shape. You could also just use the threshold if you want, and then, but you can see that it's losing some of the part of the face. And if we use an edge, we can clearly see like the eyes and the nose and the ear. So for the edge, I put the strength to 10, and I just increase a little bit the black level. We can have more definition. And for the threshold, then you can use what you want. I think I use something like 0.2. Okay, and then we want to have the color back on the shape. So we're gonna use a composite, and we are gonna compose to come together. We can leave the operation to multiply. So you see now that we have the color, the original color of the image. We can attach it to a null. And then we're going to transform this null into pop. So we can use the top two. And then if you middle click on the null here, you can see that the number of pixels here, it would be the same number of points. Now we're going to attach it to a delete. So delete will remove the points that we don't want, and we don't want the black points here. In the attribute, we're going to select the color tree, which is the alpha, and then whenever the alpha is equal to 0, which 0 is black, then remove it. Now let's bring a noise. We will deactivate it for now because I want to make the network before we start adding some variable to the particle. Next, we want to have boxes for each point, so we need to copy each point onto a geometry. We will use a box. We will reduce the size to 0.1, and the uniform scale we will put 0.02. Let's grab a copy. The copy will copy each box onto our points. So the first input will be our box, and second input will be our image. So now we can see that each point is a box. The next thing we want to do is add some variation to our box. So now they are the same size and they're at the same position, like the rotation. I will bring two random. Then the random will randomly apply a value to an attribute that we tell it to. Let's grab another one. To change the point scale, like if we want to have different size for a point, then we will use the set attribute and we will set a new attribute. If you click on the arrow here, you can see the point scale. Then I use a value between 0.5 and 1. In the copy, we will have to go in the template to enable it. So where the template scale here, just enable. And then the second random is going to be for the rotation. In the attribute, we're going to set a new attribute. And then we're going to create an attribute called rot. For this visual, I use -90 to 90. And then we have to go into the template and enable it. If we zoom in, we can see that the size is different and then they are placed in a different rotation angle. But I wanted them to rotate only on one axis because I don't like this effect of being rotated not evenly, if I can say like that. So in the random where we put the rotation, I'm gonna say rotation dot y. So now it's only rotating into the y-axis. Now you can see that each box have a random rotation of y between -90 and 90. Okay, the next thing we're gonna do is make a 3D effect, and we will use a grid to do that. And then we will change the column to 1, the rows to 1, and the slice we will use 6. So we will have 6 copy of the image points here. Let's grab another copy. So now you can see that we have 6 image, and in order to make it look like 3D, we have to close the gaps between them. We can go in the grid and then just reduce the size Z to 0.025. Now we can see it's like more of a 3D image. We will then attach it to a transform. And before we continue, I will make the render network. So let's grab a geo. So since we are using 3D elements, we need a geo in order to render it. Let's grab a camera, a light, and then a render. So we can, with the render, we can render the 3D scene. And to render a 3D scene, we need a camera and a light. In the command, we will change the resolution to 1080 by 1080. And we will use 32-bit float. Then let's bring a null and then make the viewer active. We will change the camera. So in the translate Z, let's bring that to 1 so it's closer. If we want to have it closer, we can also increase the scale here. And what we want to do is change the position of each instance of the head. So in order to do that, we need to use, you can either use a transform or a random. In this case, I used a random and I set the rotation. And I only use the Y rotation also because we wanted to move it on the Y axis. And then value A is -90. And value B will be the value that we will animate. But now we don't see anything. It's because in the second copy, we have to go in the template and enable the rotation. Now you can see that they are at different position. So if I, for example, now it's small value, but it has to be between like 0 and 360 so we can see a bigger change. What I use to animate is a pattern, a chop pattern. You could also use a LFO. We just need something that will move the value between a certain number. For the pattern, I changed the length to 600 because I want to have the same length of the timeline here. And I changed the phase to 0.25 because I wanted to start at -1 and finish at -1. Let's attach it to a time slice so we can have actual number. Then let's use a mat to change the value that we want to have our rotation. So in the mat, the from range is the initial range. So here it goes from -1 to 1. So we can change -1 to 1, and then we want to go from 0 to 90. Let's attach it to a null, and we can call it grid rut. And in the random here, just make the view active and drag the value B. Now you can see it's moving randomly from -90 to 90. And also I added another rotation to make the face move from right to left. And it's with the second, it's from the transform we added here. And we want to rotate the y-axis again. But for example, if we do 150, then you can see it's on the other side. Then if we bring it back to 0, then it's on the right side or the left side. I'm not sure, but you see. So we can just duplicate the mat in the grid rut here, and then I change the to range to -160 to 0, and we can change the name to call it rut transform. Just make the view active and to the y. So now you can see it moves from left to right. And to make the particle effect, we will use the noise. You can make the noise active. And we want to use a very small period, so something like 0.01. And we want to change the amplitude to make it like visible to less visible. But here you can see that is a bit chaotic. And what I used to make it less chaotic is I changed the parameter size to use a parameter size of 3. So now you will move either in the X direction, Y direction, so up and down, or Z. And I use the Z direction to animate it. What I use is another mat here. We can just copy and paste. So I changed the from range and the to range. For the -1, I use 0.1, and the 1 I use 0.09. So this will be the less chaotic part. You can also animate the particle in the transform here and use the ABS time dot second times 0.1, maybe faster, 0.5. I think I'm gonna increase, threshold here. Okay, so I just played a bit with the edge and the threshold just to make it the way I want it, but also I noticed that I forgot to do something because we can't really see clearly the image. So actually we forgot to put the color into the copy. So we have to go in the first copy here, and in the template attribute, enable, this will be disable, sorry, enable it. And then on the name here, just the color. Now we can see more the definition of the face. We also forgot to add the material to our geometry. So we will add Leong. Put the specular to 1. Every lighter points will become even more lighter. We can increase the diffusion a little bit. The last thing we're gonna do is post-processing. We will bring SSAO. So this is gonna put even more depth into the image. The full. and then we will reduce the contrast to 0.2. We can attach it to a bloom, reduce the pre-back level, and reduce the min radius, and we can reduce the bloom. Then let's bring a transform to have a background. Put the alpha to 1 and then comp over background. We could also add some shadows. Increase the mic shadow softness. You can change the shadow resolution to have the same as your resolution. And then I think I added another light. But this is to your taste. If you think it look good, you don't have to have another light. But then I think it's a bit too light, so I'm just gonna reduce. And let's view it. So that's it for today's tutorial. I hope you enjoy it. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you in the next one.